Hey, Mike with Nerd Problems Gaming here, the channel where we go through the good and bad of everything nerdy to make sure you spend your time on the best of the best. In today's video, we're doing a review on Tales of Arise. So Tales of Arise is an action RPG that follows the story of several heroes as they try and free the oppressed Danon people from the evil Renin overseers. So basically there's two planets right next to each other, and 300 years ago, the Renin people descended upon the Danon planet and enslaved the population in hopes of gathering astral energy from the Danon people to amass tons of power. So there's various different Renin lords that oversee different districts on the Danon planet, each with their own unique environment and focus of astral energy, and they're basically the leaders that are continuing to enslave the people. And so again, your band of heroes will go on a journey, defeat the various Renin lords, and restore peace to the realm and save the Danon people. Now the story does get a bit more intense than that, and there is a lot of twists and turns, but I won't go into spoiler territory with that aspect of the game, but I definitely recommend the story as it's one of the best parts of the game. But like I mentioned earlier, it is an action RPG, and so when you encounter different enemies on the field, you'll go into a 3D battle mode where your party will take on the enemies, and while doing so, you'll basically control one character, and they'll have different abilities that you can assign the various buttons on the controller. So it's almost like a fighting game mixed with an action RPG, and so each character that you have on your team has their own unique skill set and abilities and different astral arts that they can equip. And so in addition to being able to play as this main hero, you can also switch between the other characters at any time and control them as well. And so you can set up, again, different control schemes for each one of the characters, and they all kind of have their own unique play style. Some of them are magic users, some of them are more aggressive attackers, others focus more on defense, others are more ranged with guns, and it kind of goes on. And so you can really customize your play style for each battle, or again, whichever player you prefer to play as, you can focus on that. And the other characters you aren't playing as are controlled by AI, and so you can have different settings to focus on them being more aggressive, them using more items, them not using items, whatever the case might be. And you can also select different abilities that the characters will use while playing with AI. So if you don't want them to heal your characters, you can just take that off the list. Or again, you want them to use a certain element because the boss you're going against is weak against it, you can turn off the other attacks and only focus on those elemental attacks. And again, it kind of goes on and on. Now another really cool feature is that each character has a souped up power ability that they can unleash over time during battle. And so in order to use that, you'll simply use the D-pad and push the direction of where the character is located on the little character map. And in doing so, once it's fully charged, you'll unleash that character's ability. And then each one of these abilities has their own unique benefit. So Elfin, for example, will knock down enemies while doing damage. Law will break through an enemy's tough defense. So if they're using a shield or they're just heavily armored, it can get through that. Another character focuses on taking out flying enemies. Another one can interrupt a magic spell an enemy is casting. Another will kind of freeze or slow down fast moving enemies. Another can stop charging enemies. So again, you'll be able to unleash these as these fill up, and this can really supplement your strategy in battle. So again, if you have a charging enemy, you might use the shield user's boosted ability to stop them in their tracks and to break them for additional damage. So it's a really cool feature that ups the intensity of the battle and helps you get a bit away from just button smashing as you play through the fight scenes. Now one element that makes the gameplay pretty addicting is the fact that the various arts that you use during battle can be leveled up and improved. So depending on the number of times that you use a specific art in battle, that will improve the damage that it does, make it more powerful, heal better, whatever the case might be. But on top of that, after you use them enough, you can even unlock better versions of these abilities, or sometimes even combination abilities. So it's a really cool feature of the game that really engages you in the battle, again making it more strategic, where you want to use certain abilities a number of times to unlock additional new abilities that are more powerful, and that definitely gets addicting and is a lot of fun. Now you'll level up in the game with experience, but on top of that, you'll gain titles that you can achieve by doing certain things throughout the storyline, reaching certain parts of the game, completing certain quests, and other various ways to unlock titles. But this is kind of like a sphere grid almost from Final Fantasy X, where each title has a circle of abilities associated with it, and you'll use skill points that you gain in battle to unlock these different abilities. And so again, these might be new arts that you could use, kind of passive abilities that your characters have in general. And another neat feature is that for each title, like I said, there's a circle of abilities, and if you complete all of the abilities in that circle, you get an additional permanent stat boost, which is really cool. So again, it gets pretty addicting filling these out as you go through. But one thing I will say is that for me, I really just focused on completing all of the circles to get that bonus passive ability, and I never really cared to that much extent what I was actually unlocking, because usually when I was using arts in battle, I was just focusing on getting the number up to get those improved skills, do more damage, etc., versus really strategically planning out what art I was using for the battle. So it's cool that they have that aspect where you can pick and choose the different abilities from the titles, but I didn't really find myself ever doing that. Another cool feature too is that there is different titles that you can see that you're close to unlocking, and there's often a little hint associated with that to show you how to unlock it. So again, whether it's completing a specific quest, it might tell you that. If it says you need to complete an ability so many times, reach a certain part of the story, again, it's pretty cool that it gives you those little hints, which just drives you on further to complete more of the story or complete quests in the game. Now, I will say the game itself is actually pretty long. If you're a completionist like me, it's probably going to take you around anywhere from 75 to 100 hours to do all of the side quests, complete the main game, unlock everything that you want to. So there is a lot to complete and do overall in the game. For example, you can craft weapons and accessories as you go throughout the game. So you unlock different camps and basically find blacksmiths that you can talk to, where you can craft weapons and accessories based on the items that you find throughout the game. So you'll find little ore patches, you'll defeat enemies for items, and then again, you can use those later on to either sell for money or again, use to forge new weapons and accessories. And so this aspect's pretty fun because as you travel, you'll constantly be finding new items that you can use to improve your character's weapons. Another neat feature too though is that with the battles, there's really a bonus gauge that happens. So if you progressively defeat enemies repeatedly in a row very quickly, the meter will go up, and the higher the meter gets when you defeat enemies, you get more rare and better loot after defeating them, which again you can then use to craft better weapons or sell for more money. And so it was a lot of fun getting to do that, exploring all the items, and then when you get to the accessory crafting part, not only can you craft accessories, but they'll have additional bonus abilities associated with the accessory, and you can transfer some of these abilities to new accessories as you go. So you can definitely get sucked into spending some time on building the best accessory based on your playstyle, based on the character you're using it for, and it kind of goes on and on. Another cool part of this camping aspect is the fact that you can build relationships with the different characters, going through additional little storylines, and you'll also encounter these storylines as you play through the game in general. And so it jumps to a little comic book type cutscene to reveal more backstory of the characters, banter back and forth, deepening their relationship, and if you maximize the relationship, you can actually unlock a special ability for that character. So again, just another cool element to the game. And then also while you're camping, you can cook various different meals that give your team boosted abilities for a certain amount of time. So it could be a boosted attack, enemies drop better items, you heal after battle, and the list goes on and on. And then speaking of healing after battle, this is kind of a unique element to the game as well, where you have CP that you'll use to heal your characters. So healing abilities during battle, outside of battle, etc. is used based on this CP gauge. And so if that runs out, your characters can't heal each other, and so that can get a little bit intense. Certainly there are items that you can use in battle to restore that CP, so that's definitely cool. But also as you explore the dungeon, some of the characters have unique abilities that they can use to unlock new areas throughout the dungeon. So it might be melting an ice section, blasting through a rock blocking your path, growing plants to climb up to new areas, and it kind of goes on and on, but that uses CP as well, so you'll have to effectively manage that to keep your characters alive through these lengthy dungeons. Another unique feature of the game is that you'll collect different owls hidden throughout the maps. And so as you collect these owls, they'll actually unlock new costumes for your characters, which can switch things up and give you a new look, which is pretty fun. You'll have different accessories that you can use, like funny glasses, hats, animal tails, and much more. To be honest, I really didn't use that at all throughout the game, but if you're into that kind of collectible aspect, that's a big part of the game as well. But one thing that I found was a little weird is that all of the owls are voice acted. So instead of being just kind of a generic owl sound or whatever the case might be, it's like individual human human voices making hoot sounds, and that can be a little creepy as they pop out from time to time as you're exploring the map. But again, just kind of a unique element to the game as well. On top of that, there's fishing in the game, which is certainly a fun aspect if you like doing that. I think it's executed well. Me personally though, I don't really care for fishing in video games. It always kind of feels like a chore to me that I have to do to get certain items and certain abilities. Again, it's executed well in the game, so if you like that, you'll certainly enjoy that part. But for me, I kind of feel like it's a filler in most RPGs that I don't really feel needs to be there. But either way, it's done well in the game. Now, this is definitely a great game, but it's certainly not perfect. I played the game on the Xbox One, and while the graphics of the game are certainly amazing, I did feel like the system might not have been able to handle some of them, because as you're going through some areas, some graphics will kind of load slower than others, and I just kind of felt like I wasn't getting the full picture a lot, and that even though the graphics were phenomenal, I feel like if you're playing this on like a PlayStation 5 or an Xbox Series X, it's gonna look even better. For me, it's definitely not enough to not play the game on an older system, but just something to point out that I noticed as I played. Another thing too is that as you progress throughout the game, some of the later battles can get a little bit grindy and tedious and a little bit repetitive. Where again, early on in the game, battles might take a minute or two tops. But some of these later battles, even just the regular enemy fights, were taking like 5 to 10 minutes just to get through them. And there's a ton of them in that final dungeon. So again, that can get a little bit repetitive. If you're anything like me, trying to complete every quest, defeat every enemy you encounter, it can get a little bit much at the end of the game. But at the same time, you do have the ability to play as different characters in the battle to switch things up. I personally didn't really do that a whole lot. I just found myself playing as the main character for the most part. So again, that maybe led to some of the repetitive nature for me, but if you switch them up throughout the game, you probably won't experience that. And at the same time, this is like 80 plus hours into the game for me that it started to feel a little bit repetitive, and up to that point it wasn't really that case at all. So maybe a little bit repetitive if you're a completionist trying to complete everything and you've put like 100 hours into the game. But overall, this game is awesome. It was one of my favorite games in 2021. The storyline is awesome. There's lots of twists and turns that you don't see coming. The battle mechanics and gameplay is super addicting and a lot of fun and keeps you on your toes. There's lots of different unlockables and quests and secrets that you can find in the game, and like I said, it's going to give you anywhere from 75 to 100 hours of enjoyment, especially if you're trying to unlock everything. There's a lot to this game. I think if you like action RPGs, games with a great storyline, and addicting gameplay, you'll definitely enjoy Tales of Arise, and it's worth adding to your nerd library, and I definitely recommend it. But if you guys like this video, be sure to smash that like button as it really helps out the channel, and if you haven't done so yet, be sure to subscribe and turn on the bell notifications to get the latest updates of new nerd videos we put out. And if you'd like to help support the channel, pick out content and more, become a patron of ours at nerdproblemsgaming.com/Patreon. And if you'd like to plug into our live streams and Let's Plays we do on the channel, you can follow us over on Twitch at nerdproblemsgaming.com/Twitch. But once again, thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you more soon.